Hello, welcome to this section. I will be talking about introduction to CSS in this session, and also I will be talking about the syntax of CSS, which is the rule set. Introduction to CSS. The full meaning of CSS is cascading style sheet. The CSS describes how HTML elements should be displayed. Also, it is a style language and not a programming language. The CSS is the code you use to style your web page. Just like the way as a stylist styles your hair, just that same way we use the CSS to style the web page. Also, the CSS is a very powerful tool that it is used to style multiple web pages with just one single CSS file. So it is very important for a web developer to know and understand how to use the CSS language. For example, if you want to style the paragraph element in a document, in your HTML document, what you need to do is to use the P selector and put down your CSS property with the value. For example, we have a P as a selector, the CSS property will be color, and the value of that property will be blue. So in such way, the whole paragraph element in the web page will now be a blue color. So that is how the CSS operates. It's very simple, and I'm sure by the end of this section you should be able to know and work with CSS. Now let's move on to the CSS syntax. How do we compile the CSS syntax? Now we call that the CSS rule set. We call that the CSS rule set. Now the CSS rule set comprises of the CSS selector and the declaration block. For example, we have here the paragraph, which is the P. Now we have the color, and we have the value of the color, which is red. Now what we are going to do here, the P stands for the selector, and what is that actually doing? It is there to find and select the HTML element you want to style. For example, this P now will style every P element it finds on the HTML document in such a way that when you check the browser, every paragraph will be styled immediately, will be styled with a particular color that has been assigned to it. Now that is the selector. The P stands for the selector. So immediately you have the selector already there, then the next thing you should do is to open a curly brace. You have to create a curly brace. Then when you create a curly brace, the next thing you should think about doing is to put in the declarations. That is the declaration. The declaration consists of the CSS property and the CSS values, okay, or we call it the property value. Now in this illustration we have the CSS property as color. Then immediately after putting the CSS property, they will, and it's a mandatory there must be a colon. Now after using the colon, then you are free to put the value of the property. In this illustration, the value of the property is red. Then after using that value, you use the semicolon to end the declaration. The moment you put the semicolon, you are free to close the curly brace. So this is just a very simple illustration on how to work with the CSS rule set. It's a simple illustration on how to do the CSS rule set. It consists of the selector and the declaration block. Another thing you need to know is that there can be more than one declarations in this rule set. In such a way, according to what we have here, we have the color as a property and the value as the property value. Then you can have more properties and more values in this particular rule set. The only thing you need to do is that at the end of every declarations, you must include a semicolon, differentiating one declaration from the other declaration. In such a way, we have the property and we have the value, then there will be a semicolon at the end. Then you come underneath and put the next property. Maybe you want to change the size. We have the font size. You put the font size property there. You put a colon, then the value may be bold. Or you use the dimension. You can actually use the dimension which is 16 pixel or 16 em. So whichever way you want to do it, the most important thing is that at every declaration you must have a semicolon at the end. So that is all you need to know about the CSS rule set. It's very important to know that the rule set consists of the selector and the declaration block. So very importantly, you must have a opening curly brace at the front of the selector, and at the end of the declaration there should be a closing curly brace. So that is all you need to know. So in our next session, we are going to work on the remaining aspects of the CSS. Thank you very much.